So on today's menu will be collard greens as one of the dishes that I will be preparing for my food project. Above you can see the ingredients, and this is a quick after picture. So let's get right into it. Show you the process. First, you have to put some water in your pot so that you can boil your turkey leg, your turkey neck, or turkey tail, whichever type of meat you decide to use to help flavor your greens. Then you'll proceed to put it on a stove and light the fire, and then begin putting your turkey tail or turkey leg or turkey neck into the pot. We use turkey leg this time. So after you put that in there, you'll need to put your top on halfway to allow some ventilation to come through the pot. Now, while that's on the fire and it's simmering and it's cooking and it's doing what it's doing, you'll need to put some water into a bowl or anything like that to prepare to clean your greens that will come out of the bag. It's always a great practice and a great habit to clean your greens, clean your vegetables and fruit before using it, because you just don't know what's been on it or who's been touching it. So always make sure you clean your greens. So right here you'll see me filling up water in the bowl and preparing for the next step, which will be adding some type of vinegar to it. We added some apple cider vinegar to this bowl to help clean the greens out. It just helps make it more sanitary. So now, after you do that, you will open the bag and put it in there. You should do this with any kind of greens you have, collards, mustards, all kinds of greens. So put it in there, make sure you move it around and get it everywhere that it needs to be, to make sure it's just thoroughly cleaned out. You can see me right here just cleaning it out, making sure that everything is getting wet and clean. So after you move it around and get all the pieces of the greens clean, you want to make sure that you strain it out after it sits in the water solution for about 5 minutes or so. So after you do that, you can see me making sure that I get all of the water out, because there is vinegar in there and you don't want to cook with that just because it's not a part of the recipe and it probably wouldn't taste that good. So making sure you get all the greens in there, straining all the water out, all the vinegar out, and being able to make sure that you get all of the dirt and grime that was on the greens before you open the bag out. So you see me making sure I get all the pieces in there and making sure it fits into the strainer. Then you want to proceed to hit it with some water to make sure that you get even more of it off. Just pouring it out of the bowl probably wouldn't be enough. So make sure you thoroughly rinse it off with some water. I use cold water. I'm not really sure if it makes a difference what kind of water you use, but make sure that you get the water in there and make sure that you wash all of the greens off, as you can see me doing here. Now, after about an hour of this turkey leg sitting in the pot, you want to take your green by the handful and put it into the pot. You don't necessarily have to do it by the handful. I just decided to do it by the handful because if I just poured it straight into the water probably would splash everywhere. That's just not good. You may get burned and it just make a big mess. So make sure that you're very safe in this whole cooking process, and make sure that you get everything into the pot like it needs to be in the pot. So you see me here making sure I'm putting it in there very carefully, making sure I'm being able to fit everything in there. It looks full right now, but it will cook down and it'll look a lot more condensed later on. So here you can see me starting seasoning. I did put some granulated garlic on it for some extra flavor. I also put in a little bit of seasoning salt. You don't want to put in too much seasoning salt because there is salt that comes from the turkey tail. And you don't want it to just be way too salty because then it wouldn't be good. And then after I put both of those in, I proceeded to put in a pack of Lipton onion soup mix. This is something that I'm not sure exactly what it does, but it's something that my mother does and something she taught me how to do and put in the recipe. So I'll make sure I'm honoring her by doing that. Then after you put all of that in there, make sure that you stir it around with some type of spoon. I like this spoon just because when you go to pick up the greens, it helps strain out a lot of the juice, so it doesn't run all over the place and get all over your, any type of bread or cornbread or biscuits you have on your plate. So make sure you stir it around, make sure you get all the seasoning, everything in there. and let it just simmer. So after you mix it up a little bit, you want to be able to put the top on there, let it sit for another 2 to 3 hours. Check in on it periodically, and it should be done. Now I'll show you how I made my fried chicken. This one came out really good. So above you can see all of the ingredients that I used to make my fried chicken. So first and foremost, you always want to wash your food off, as I stated earlier. So make sure you get some chicken under some water and wash it off. Not really sure if it matters if it's warm or cold, but I did use cold water for this. So make sure you're washing off the chicken, getting all that extra bacteria and all that extra stuff off of there, so that you can cook it and you won't get sick. Now put it in a bowl and make sure you season it. Season it very thoroughly. You don't want to go too light on the seasoning. So you can see me putting some seasoning salt on there. Then I proceeded to put a couple more seasoning on there. This is some Creole seasoning. You don't need too much of this just because it also has salt in it, and you already put some seasoning salt in it, so you don't want to put a lot of it because it'd be way too salty. Now you can see me putting some granulated garlic in it. You can use granulated garlic powder, anything like that. It'll just really help out with the flavor of the whole thing. Now you see me putting some onion powder on it, another great taste, or a great touch to help enhance the taste of the whole meal. And now I'm putting some black pepper on it. I don't know how much any of these measurements are really. My parents always taught me to kind of just eyeball it, and you'll know when you know. So right here, I just put a spoon of the black pepper on there, and then I proceeded to put some smoked paprika onto the chicken. I love the flavor of it, and I just love the color that it gives the chicken. So that's a big reason why I use the smoked paprika, and make sure that I use it on a lot of my dishes. Now you want to make sure you get in there and get it all mixed around, get everything in there nice and good, so it's not just sitting on one side. Only one side of the chicken is seasoned and juicy. Make sure that it's very thorough in the whole process of getting everything in there. So you see me tossing it around a little bit, make sure I get all the seasoning everywhere that it needs to be, and all the places that it needs to be. So make sure you do that thoroughly until you see that all the seasoning is spread out across all pieces of chicken very evenly, and then you can go on to the next step. The next step would be coating it in the flour. So you want to make sure you put it in the flour and get it flour over the whole piece of chicken. And once you do that, make sure that you wipe off all the excess. If you don't get off the excess, the chicken is going to be very bready. It won't be very crispy, but it'll be very soft and bready. So make sure you get all of that off. So you see me getting all of the flour where it needs to be. So make sure that is perfect. Shaking it off. Now you can see me putting the chicken into the grease. You want to make sure you're very careful doing this because the grease is very hot. If the grease is not hot enough, then the chicken just won't cook and it won't be as crispy as you need it to be. So make sure that the grease is hot enough before you put the chicken in there, and yeah, it'll come out just how you need it to come out. And here you can see me pulling the grease out. Pulling the chicken out of the grease. The grease did get a little dark, but that's nothing. It's just a little excess.